In 5, 4, 3, 2. Hello and welcome back to another exciting episode of DSLR FILM NOOB Podcast. Planet Mitch from Planet 5D. Man, I am just not getting that right today. How are you doing, man? Thanks for joining me. I'm DJ, by the way.
I am Planet Mitch from Planet 5D. Planet 5D. With my sound effects in the background that aren't working. Planet 5D. Planet Mitch. That's me.
What are you up to, man? I haven't talked to you in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I missed you last week. You know, I had a day off. I took the whole day off, did absolutely nothing because we didn't have a show. Laid by the pool here in Missouri in the snow. We had snow last week, but anyway.
You have a pool?
No.
Oh, man. Good, because those are hard to clean. All right.
I had a pool when I was a kid in high school or Florida, and it was a pain in the butt. But anyway.
On my end, just actually, you may have noticed that there are a few articles going up on DSLRFilmNoob.com.
Yay!
That's because I finally got everything in the house done, moved in completely, and now I actually have a little bit of free time to write. So you may be seeing a few more of those coming up every week. Hopefully, knock on this table right here that is not made out of wood. But I digress. I think we've got a lot of news to talk about today, so I think it's probably time for the news. Time for the news. First thing on the list here is actually a camera. Yes, that's right, folks. Another camera announced. And I would love to say that this is an exciting camera, but I'm going to instead say that it's an interesting addition and the, eighth, ninth in the line of these cameras? Seventh? Canon has released so many. Meet the 80D. This is the latest in the Canon above Rebel, but below their full-frame sensor camera line. Offers a flip-out screen and, of course, the always wanted, always requested, never gotten headphone jack.
Now
Mitch,
that's an upgrade.
Tell me a little bit about this camera.
It's awesome. It's the most amazing camera on the planet, and everybody should go out and use DJ's link and buy one.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Well, the first thing that annoys me / entertains me is that it's the Canon 80D, right? So
Yes.
did I say 80D or did I say
DDD.
Alpha Dog ADD, which is medical condition. So every time I hear it now, all I hear is Alpha Dog instead of 80 dog. But anyway, it's entertainment, right? I wish, and I was talking to my daughter about this morning, and she's like, "Why didn't they just call it Sam or Paul or Joanne or something?" Because I mean, if you think about it, it's driven me crazy for a while. So the 6D, or are you talking about the 6D or the 60D? You know, I mean, they're very similar. 70D are very similar sounding, and you have to kind of really enunciate and be clear. And now you've got that. We don't have an 8D yet, do we?
No, but I'm sure they'll slide one in there somewhere.
Maybe there's something coming. No, I don't know.
Well, let's run down the specs on this guy because, the naming Canon has always been bad. One more 10 added to this, and we've gone back to the Nikon D90, so it's extra confusing.
Oh, gosh, I hadn't even thought about that.
We're rolling into a 24.2 megapixel sensor. This is APS-C, of course, so crop 1.6. You've got the new dual pixel AF system in this, 7 frames per second, so getting close to the original 7D, not 70D. And this also offers up a few other interesting things. 45 points of AF on this guy. The AF pattern looks to be very similar to what you see on the 5D Mark III. It also has an extended ISO range, although I doubt that's going to be much better considering this is pushing a 24 megapixel sensor instead of the traditional 18 megapixel sensor we've seen in the past. And they've added time-lapse feature, near-field communication, Wi-Fi, headphone jack, and creative filters. Oh, and don't forget HDR if you really want to get crazy with things at a price of $1,200. Now, That is a few new things, but basically, to me, and maybe I'm wrong, Mitch, it feels like they've cobbled together all of the things that have been sprinkled across the Canon line for quite some time into one final amalgamation without 4K, of course.
Final amalgamation? No, it's not the final one. It
This
drives me
week it is.
crazy. Right? Yeah. Uh, it's a decent camera, and I go back and I'll say this yet again. Canon is focusing their DSLRs on photographers, and this has some great video features in it, but it's very clear that they are focusing this on photographers who want to shoot video. And if you want to shoot video, they have a whole nother section of cameras for you called the EOS Cinema line. And so, you know, they know that there are thousands upon thousands of people shooting 4K, but you know what? They don't care. This is not a camera for them. This is not what cameras aiming their camera this at. You know, if you want to shoot 4K and only spend $1,000, then go buy the Sony A6300 that just came out, or any of the Sony things, or Panasonic. Canon's basically saying you want 4K, you're going to have to pay for it.
Now, with this camera, they have added some of the video features. So we've see that in video mode AF, the dual pixel AF system that was premiered in the C100 and C300 and so on. Now also they've released accessories. They've released other products that go along with this to make it more of a video tool, and that includes a microphone. Ooh, fancy. And of course, this is kind of a weird one actually. This Zoom rocker style attachment for a lens. Let's see, what lens is this? This is the EFS 18 to 135 f3.5 to 5.6. That combination of zoom rocker and lens will set you back about $750. Now, a power zoom is something that video professionals like to have on their cameras, but that isn't a spectacular lens. It's the only one compatible with the PZ-E1. What do you think about this weird zoom rocker lens that Canon has thrown out with this particular camera?
Let me ask you a question, DJ, because you're my expert. How often do you as a filmmaker do a power zoom?
That is awful. You do it very rarely unless you are trying to achieve a very specific almost Full House, 80s sitcom style, like, oh no face. There are some exceptions, of course. Occasionally, I'll do a Hitchcock Zoom, which is where you actually zoom in while pulling the camera back, and what that does is it changes the back plane of the camera and the focus on the subject so that it feels like the subject is being isolated from the background. But I tend to do that by hand or with a follow focus system. I do not zoom in like this almost ever. Maybe if you're working in a studio and you're doing The Price is Right every single day, and you've got some sort of thing where like you have to pick out a studio audience member or something like that, or news. I suppose if you're doing news, a zoom rocker could be very handy. But for most filmmakers, it's not a huge thing. That's my opinion personally. Sure. Devin would argue with me. He loves having a zoom rocker on his camera. So
does he?
Wow, yes. Cool.
He's the one, huh?
Yeah, if you're in the news gathering business, a zoom rocker is very convenient. Sure. But this is an f3.5 to 5.6, so you're going to get darkening as you zoom in. It is a good range, 18 to 135, but it's kind of a cheesy looking lens too, plasticky looking, and that weird electronic socket on the bottom. I don't know. Are you going to spend $750 on this?
No. Well, no. Number one, I don't need it. Number two, this is again a consumer thing, right? This is, in my mind, aimed at consumers. I mean, if you watch the videos, the promo video for it, there's the family on the beach. They're taking pictures, and when I had my camcorder, which is back there in the corner, I used to use that power zoom. Of course I did, but most people aren't using that kind of thing. most professionals aren't. I still, before we jump along, I do want to talk about that microphone because I found a couple of things interesting.
Okay. Lay it
Number
on
one,
me,
it's
man.
cheap, right? It's $250.
Is that cheap though? I mean,
Well, if you compare
what's
it
a
to
Rode VideoMic Pro run right now?
350,
350.
right?
Okay.
So it's a little bit less expensive. It also has one of those button batteries as opposed to a 9-volt battery in it. Now, I asked Rode at one point, I said, well, couldn't I just use double A's? Why are you guys putting these stinking 9 volts? Because everything else I own is, double A or triple A or, batteries, and I have a bunch of rechargeables. And they told me this, well, microphones require a good amount of power. And if you underpower them, then you're not going to get good quality. Now, that's Rode's opinion, of course. Now, I'm not a microphone
There's actually
expert.
some truth to that.
And I knew you would know, of course. But so there's a little tiny one of those button batteries in here. So you don't have to change batteries very often. It's supposed to last forever. The other thing and I didn't do any research on this, I was just kind of fascinated because this is not only a little mini boom mic, it also does stereo. If you switch. Now, how many microphones do you know that are both dual shotgun and stereo?
Asden actually has a very interesting microphone that has a built-in single stereo pattern mic that's curved around the front and top, and then another microphone underneath of that is a single mono mic that points directly forward, and it is actually priced in the $200 range, so more affordable than this. Also, looking on Amazon right now, just comparing these two, there's a few things I noticed about this mic, and while we're talking about it, I want to point those out. Basically, this mic has an audio range of 50 to 16 kilohertz. The Zoom, or the Rode VideoMic Pro, not a sponsor of my site, but it's about $60 cheaper than the entry price of the Canon microphone. It has a built-in shock mount, which is different. The frequency range on this, the response range is up to 20 megahertz. And if you're not familiar with Nyquist's theorem, you should definitely go read up on that. The lower your sampling frequency and the faster it rolls off. And so you can get degradation in what would be audible frequencies. So if it rolls off at 16 kilohertz, then you are going to possibly lose, I think that would make it like 8 and above, roughly 9 and above, something like that. Someone could check my math on this, but the higher the frequency response range, the better off you are. So I don't know. It seems expensive to me, actually. That was the first thing that hit me is it's kind of expensive. The stereo part, how often do you want a stereo pickup pattern on your camera, especially a camera-mounted mic? I mean, I stand behind the camera, and I make a little bit of noise. I'm going to put that out there, like I might move or shuffle or something like that. And if it's picking up a stereo pattern, it's going to pick me up behind the camera because usually when you're in a stereo pattern, you have trouble with rear rejection. And the reason for that is because your pattern is 2 globes on either side, and those globes extend out both directions. Whereas if you have a hypercardioid pattern, it points directly forward. Mono mic, better than stereo mic, unless you're catching birds chirping or trying to pick up some sort of weird pattern. Now, sorry, Mitch, I didn't mean to roll off topic, but what do you now that I've brought all those things to light, what do you think about the Canon P whatever EZ1?
Well, that's the Zoom rocker, and the microphone is the DEM1 or something weird. Well, see, and I have to apologize because I still have in my head that the Rode microphones are more expensive than that. So I'm glad you looked that up while I was talking because now I look really bad.
Sorry, Mitch.
No, that's fine. Do I need that microphone? No. I tend to think that, and of course we haven't physically touched it. And I'm really glad you brought up that thing about the megahertz and the high end range, because I was thinking to myself, I'm 58 years old and I know I don't hear anything above 12,000 or whatever. And so I didn't didn't know that. You've taught me something new about microphones that I didn't know before. It's always great talking to you.
If you ever grab any microphone, they will usually have what looks like a linear scale graph,
right?
And it'll show you frequency response ranges and the response that the mic is capable of receiving in terms of decibel levels for the microphone. And the range for the Rode VideoMic Pro, which, again, not a sponsor of my site, but I use them regularly, good mics, they keep strong all the way across the vocal range, all the way up to the musical range, which, you know, that's getting into higher frequencies. You generally speak between, you know, 3K, 2K-ish, 4K if you're a higher pitched female vocal, and then you get a few touches of like 80 and 90 and 100 hertz, which are the lower frequency basses from men with deeper chests and so on. So that range you want fairly solid with a little bit of roll off towards the 80 hertz range. And then you want good flat response with maybe a little bit of boost in a few points, depending on what you're recording. But at 6K or 16K, you're going to roll off very fast. So any of that high frequency response is gone. Sad. Really sad.
Yeah, it is sad. So the Video Rocker's awesome if you really want that. The brand new Canon 80D is going to sell a lot to photographers because it has more of the pro video features minus 4K. And somebody asked me the other day, and I have not yet looked up. Good Lord. DJ, what is happening to us today?
I know, we're both tongue-tied as all get out.
I haven't seen anything about this having clean HDMI out. So that, I apologize, I do not know the answer because that's been asked to me, and I should know that. I do think the dual pixel autofocus in this, the demos that they show, are fairly cool. Now, it does not have the features in the dual pixel autofocus that the 1DX has, where you can specify how fast, if something comes into frame, whether or not the camera picks that up and stuff. That was pretty fancy. That's obviously going to stay up in the the Pro line like the 1DX. And something else that we haven't mentioned, by the way, is that new lens. And I'm gonna really screw this up because I think they've got it's a new.
Are you talking about the nano?
The nano image
USM?
Stabilization thing, yes. And I don't know enough about that to really talk about it, but it's new in this lens.
So what they're doing in the camera is they're combining the use of USM, which is an ultrasonic motor, and STM, which is a stepper style motor for both the AF system controls and for the spinning mechanism that's being used for image stabilization. So as opposed to taking the approach of the 5-axis image stabilization that you're seeing in other lenses or other camera bodies, where they move the sensor around, Canon is still focused on lens itself. The idea behind this is that you're getting the benefit of the control precision of an STM style drive motor, and you're getting the speed of a USM style motor combined together, and you don't have to make the lens as bulky in order to accommodate the torque requirements from those motors. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I bless your little heart, you know all that stuff. Very, very cool.
Now, one other thing I wanted to point out, and actually this is something that does make the 80D really exciting, and before we move on, the new AF sensor system in this camera, here is a picture of the 5D Mark III, and while they don't quite label them the same, it looks as though Canon is basically stuck that AF system into this camera body, which means we're going to probably see a new AF system in the next 5D Mark IV. And I will tell you that going from the 19-point cross-type AF system to the AF system that's used in the 5D Mark III, it's a fairly substantial step up. Definitely really good AF in the 5D Mark III system, and the 19 points was originally debuted in the 7D line, and it's good. It was way better than the 9-point AF system with like 2 or 3 cross types before, but this is a substantial upgrade in terms of autofocus. So
yes,
that part is exciting, and the price, $1,200, not bad. Flip out screen. Mitch loves the flip out screen,
and it's touch.
They do allow Wi-Fi control of the Zoom rocker via Canon's whatever app, motion grab app, happy grab app, whatever they call it. That thing does allow you to control the Zoom rocker if you have the $750 Zoom rocker accessory plus only lens that it works with. Now,
time out. It's not a $750.
No, the lens is $600, but if you want the Zoom rocker controller, the entire kit.
I just wanted to make that clear. Yeah. Awesome camera. For the prosumer, this is a great camera, and they're going to sell a lot of them, especially the photographers.
Yeah, and now you will have everything that Magic Lantern provided you in a T2i, minus the autofocus, from 8 years ago, 7 years ago.
Well, but no, you don't get zebras or focus peaking. Or
Magic Lantern provided focus peaking, zebras, provided headphone monitoring.
Yes.
Which was in the T2i. I mean, how many eyes back was that ago? They're up to Canon. You're killing me, buddy. All right. Moving on to the next thing on the line. This is a camera brand that I used as a child, Pentax K1000, if you're not familiar with that. That was a great, very robust, solid film camera. I stress film there. But Pentax hasn't really been on my radar for many years now, but apparently they are back on the radar with the Pentax K-1 camera. This is a 36.4 megapixel full frame CMOS sensor. The sensor is, of course, the same sensor used in the Sony A7R, which is now superseded by the A7R Mark II, and it does have 5-axis image stabilization, which is nice. It has some pro video features. It has a 1080p 60 frames per second, which, by the way, I forgot to mention, the 80D also has 60 frames per second now. Woohoo! So slow-mo people, you get a little more slow-mo. Otherwise, this camera looks like your regular affair. Built-in GPS, some weird stuff with the lens or with the back screen. Did you see that strange?
Oh yes.
Strange, like rack and pinion style twisty thing there. Now, Mitch, weigh in on this camera. Tell me what you think about the Pentax K-1.
Well, I was very impressed. This will be the next camera that I buy. No. Sarcasm aside. I thought it was very funny because one of the articles that I was reading about the K1 when it was announced said the 2 people that buy Pentax will be very excited by this. I'm like, DJ's going to spit his drink all over the screen. 2 people that buy Pentax are going to be excited by this. Now, this is really awesome because this is their very first full-frame sensor, which is a big deal for Pentax fans. All 3 of them.
Pentax does have some medium format cameras that are fairly well loved, and this, I think maybe they're targeting this as a daughter camera to those people? Question mark?
It could be. I mean, this is something else that I was going to look up, but I've been so busy doing other stuff I haven't. What mount did they have? I mean, we are always talking about the Sony E mount and the A mount and the Canon. What do they call this?
You got me, man.
What?
I've
stumped DJ in terms of camera stuff.
Yeah, when I read everything about this camera, it kind of just flew by me fast. So the idea here is they have a medium format camera for doing high resolution shots of advertisements, large spreads. If you're doing a full wall, something like that. The lens format that's used in that is capable and compatible with this camera, but I have no idea what that lens format is.
It's called the K mount.
Oh, wow. Clever. So we have a K camera with a K mount lens. Thank you, Mitch.
Yay! Well, thank you, Wikipedia.
Also, from what I understand, this camera's mount is backwards compatible with the entire history of Pentax camera mount lenses. So if you have any old school lenses out there, you can put them on this body and use them. And there are a bunch of really good Pentax lenses available from the K1000 that I used to use a long time ago. But this camera, it doesn't offer anything that's very exciting other than the fact that it's a daughter unit to their bigger camera. And it's taken so long for them to get into the game that everybody has pretty much saturated the full frame market. Where is Pentax planning on making inroads with this?
Well, I think it's just something to make people who are Pentax fanatics happy.
Have you ever met a Pentax fanatic?
No. But again, let's go back to what I keep preaching that people forget is that the money's in the lenses. And I've got an article that I'm working on right now that talks about camera sales. And body sales, by the way, went down in 2015, just like everything else did. And I won't dive deeply into this, but the key thing is that lens sales are still well above where they were, say, 8 or 10 years ago, and that's where the money is. So if you're a person, if you're Pentax and you want to sell lenses, then you make a new body. And for those people that are Pentax owners that have Pentax lenses, that K-mount lenses, and Kmart lenses, then you're excited about this and you will probably buy it. It's not meant to be a huge moneymaker for Pentax. It's to sell more lenses.
Let's talk about the money for a second. The price on this is actually fairly affordable. You're looking at about, what, $1,800 for this full-frame body? It does have a superior AF system compared to something like the Canon 6D. And the Sony sensor, the 36-megapixel sensor they're using in this, is a very good sensor. As far as image resolution goes, as far as AF goes, this does have a lot to offer. So I think you're right, Mitch. If you do have a ton of Pentax glass laying around or access to Pentax glass, I mean, $1,700 isn't bad for a full-frame body these days.
And let's not forget, since you mentioned that it is the Sony A7R sensor, you've got those high ISO ranges. Now, it's not quite as good as the A7S, but it's pretty darn close, right? I mean,
yeah, you can push into the 12,800 range without much issue. I would put the A7R sensor in more of the 5D Mark III range of low light performance. The A7S with its, I believe it's a 12 megapixel sensor. Someone will probably write in and tell me that I'm incorrect in that, but that's the one that really shines in low light.
Right. And the other thing about this Pentax, it was the LCD, and that it slayed me because one of the videos, and there were when the ADD was announced on Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever that was, Wednesday, there were like 50 videos that suddenly appeared on YouTube, because you can do a search on YouTube in the last hour, right, for new stuff. Bunches of videos popped in there and everybody had their videos ready. Go search on Pentax K1 and I found 3. And they were, guys like me who are just like, oh, this is pretty cool. But one of the guys was like, had his hands on this K1 at some camera announcement. And he's like, oh, this LCD feels really robust, and I can see that this is not going to ever break. And I'm like, what? I beg to differ. That thing looks really
goofy.
Kind of goofy, and I can imagine that sucker breaking pretty easily.
Yeah, it's
There's a lot of moving parts.
If you're not watching the video, it's got 4 little rack and pinion sliders that attach to the back of the screen with a little tether that brings the data cable into the bottom of the screen itself. And you're able to twist and sort of bend it, imagining 4 pins coming out and into a smaller center in that sort of fashion. It is strange, it is weird, and it doesn't look nearly as convenient as some of the British reviewers were pointing out it was.
Yeah.
All right, moving on down the line.
Hey,
you know what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the cinema. Or would you like to talk about?
No. I just wanted to make sure because you have it at the top of the show notes, and then we haven't talked about it yet. But this is going to be cool.
So, folks, I want to talk about this for a second. The Cinema Summit, Cinesummit, is 10 directors, and these directors are sharing experiences, their work with you. This is a free course. It is March 1st and 2nd, and there's links in the show notes. It's dslr.com/Cinesummit, and you can go check that out. They are putting together a great product. It's
I'm sorry, DJ.
I'm failing at this today.
It's one of those shows. What did you say the link was? Did you hear what you said?
No, I did not hear what did I say?
You said DSLR.com.
Oh, man. I just can't.
You forgot your own website.
It's DSLRFilmNoob.com/Cinesummit. It is early in the morning. I've only drank 1 cup of coffee. There are going to be 5 different directors each day. That's March 1st and March 2nd. Free to watch. They have their entire presentation looking at about 15 hours worth of information and life experiences from some directors that are out in the field working. This is a great opportunity for you to find out more about how the back end of some of these productions work and learn from some of the best on the market. Again, that's DSLRFilmNoob.com/Cinesummit. So go check that out today. There's a link in the show notes. Mitch, are you excited about that? Are you going to show up March 1st and 2nd to watch that?
I am going to watch pieces of it. I do not have the time to dedicate my entire day, but I do know Aviv, who is putting that on. Awesome guy. This is the 5th Cinesummit that he's done. He has done prior ones based on cinematographers and random groups of people. When we first started, it wasn't necessarily focused on a specific topic. But last year's was on cinematographers. And if you go to the thing and register, the link that DSLRFilmNoob.com/Cinesummit that DJ posted, you can actually, and once you register, you will be offered the opportunity to purchase the Cinesummit if you aren't able to attend on March 1st and 2nd, because they will disappear at the end of the day. But you can also purchase all of the previous Cinesummits, and there's some amazing material in there that if you want to look at that, just go to that link and check it out.
Excellent, excellent. Now, sorry for that collapse in both of our speech today. Man, I don't know what's going on this morning, but I am not on my game. Let's talk about some audio kit here, Mitch. Audio kit is near and dear to my heart. It's near and dear to most filmmakers' heart. And I've got several reviews up, actually. For some reason, they all rolled out simultaneously. Let's first talk about Wi-Fi audio. Wi-Fi audio is something that we have been seeing most recently with things like the Rode Link, the Asden Pro XD, and now the System 10 from Audio-Technica. All 3 of these use a Wi-Fi band frequency to transmit audio to your camera from a lav pack, as opposed to using the more traditional UHF or VHF frequencies. These range anywhere from $200 all the way up to $400, with the Rode Video Link being at the top of the pack in terms of price. Now, I just finished testing this out, and I plan to do a full review on it, but this is the Audio-Technica System 10. Sits at the middle of the pack, roughly $300, and actually, the only reason I have this in my collection is because for some reason, it dropped to $200 on Amazon for a couple of hours a month or so ago, and it was an impulse buy. That's an extremely affordable price, but I wasn't expecting much from it. Now, if you roll through and listen to the audio samples that I've got there in the video portion of the early preview, it sounds spectacular. And Mitch, I wanted to ask you, because you actually have the Rode Link in your possession, how's the audio with Rode's really decent lav mics with that system, and what would you say it compares to in terms of this System 10?
Well, sure. Catch me on some technicalities here, because I don't have the System 10. The only one that I've ever used is the Rode, so I don't know that it's fair for me to kind of make any comparisons. I've been very impressed with the Rode. I can't say that the sound quality's the best I've ever had, but I don't know that it's the worst. So I'm sorry. I don't.
Oh, that's okay. I've yet to get my hands on the Rode Video Link. I'd like to compare these two. I was at first concerned. The lav mic on this is a little weird. It's a square instead of a circle, and it has a penetrating hole on the back and the front. But I was pleasantly surprised by the audio quality. Build-wise, it is very plasticky, and at this price range, I suppose that is a given. But I'm not happy with the proprietary adapter that they use. And that was one of the things that Rode did right that I don't feel like Audio-Technica really did correctly. This 4-pin adapter right here is specific to Audio-Technica systems. So you're going to be kind of locked in with your lav. The lav does sound really good, though. So look for more on that. I'm kind of anxious to test that against the Asden Pro XD and the Rode Link. I will try to get both of those in for comparison. Go ahead.
Let me ask you a question. Scroll up there a little bit and show the lav picture.
Let me bring that up here. All right, the lav picture is this weird square right here. So that's what I'm talking about. And there's the proprietary adapter as well.
Right. And that's why I wanted to show that, because they're both in the same picture. Isn't it nice that it's flat for a microphone? I mean, wouldn't it be easier to put under clothing and hide as opposed to a round one?
Yeah, and the concern I had, because it's flat, is, well, and I just dropped the picture and I want to bring it back up again. If you look right here, you see the audio hole is located here in the center.
Right.
Traditionally, your lav pickup is up. So ideally, you hang it on your shirt and it sort of points up towards your face.
Right.
That's why the barrel design is nice. This is still, it's as thick as most average round lav mics. So the flatness doesn't really make it better for your shirt mounting or what have you, because you still have the clip behind it, and it still sticks out just about as much as my ME2s from Sennheiser.
Okay.
But I was expecting the pickup pattern with that forward-backward hole to not be as good as the upward-facing microphone. It turns out it actually, for me anyway, and I haven't tested it out on a female yet, but my voice sort of resonates in the chest.
Yeah.
And it gave me a surprisingly good sounding tone. I was happy with the audio that I was getting out of this. It sounds really, really decent for a kit lav mic, probably better than the ME2 that I normally use. And that's like $150 lav.
So let me further clarify. You keep saying forward, backward. Is there a hole on both sides?
Yes.
So that's where it's picking up your chest, right? It's picking up the resonance from your chest on the backside.
That's correct.
So it is realistically very omnidirectional, like most lav mics, right? Because
I haven't seen a pickup pattern diagram of it, so I can't say for sure. But it to me, when you see a mic pointing forward and backwards, you think it's going to go
right,
like this, but it ends up doing this weird. I'm snaking my hands around for those of you listening.
But again, from my understanding, almost all lav mics are omnidirectional, so it shouldn't necessarily matter whether it's pointing up directly to your mouth or not, because not most, but a lot of the sound that we hear comes from the chest, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe it's okay like that.
It sounds really good.
Yeah.
So yes, it is definitely okay. I like it.
I'm just
Surprisingly.
I'm just asking questions because some of us don't know as much as you do, DJ.
Now,
And
one other thing I want to point out that sucks about this, actually,
uh-oh.
and I don't want to be all positives because there is a negative. Look at this. A freaking screwdriver inside of the case is how you adjust the input audio levels.
What?
What kind of horse manure is that that you have to freaking... And I mean, it's nice that if they're going to make you do that, they include a tool.
Yeah.
And I will say that I did not have to do any adjustments on mine out of the pack to get it working in the range that I wanted it to work in. But that's still rather silly that in the middle of a shoot, you're going to grab a screwdriver and twist around a little tiny pot, this little guy right here, in order to adjust the input-output levels of this thing.
And you have to take the cover off in order to get to it.
That's correct.
So, yikes.
Yeah, and that's where the Rode Video Link sort of wins out. Is easy to control features on the back, buttons, simple interface. The audio quality on this is definitely very good, but that is weird. That's very strange to me that you would use a screwdriver in order to adjust the levels. Now, the other thing I want to point out, and Mitch, maybe you can verify this for me, does the Rode Video Link have the ability to change out batteries, or is it all internal batteries?
No, they're just regular AA's like you got there.
That's what I thought, but when I was reading through the stuff, it said non-traditional batteries on Amazon. So I thought I knew that it used AA's, but then I saw the USB port on the side and was thinking, man, maybe it has its own internal battery. That's the other failing of this Audio-Technica, is that the receiver has a built-in lithium-ion battery, so you cannot change that out. Mitch is looking currently for...
It's back here on the floor, but yeah, I know it's AA batteries. I use them all the time.
That's what I thought. So that's the other advantage you're going to get with the Rode, is you'll be able to put batteries in both the transmitter and receiver, which is very nice.
Yeah.
Now, while we're on the audio line of questioning and conversation here, let's talk about one other audio device, actually two other audio devices before we get out of here. This is right here, the Saramonic UwMic10 wireless UHF system. Now, I just mentioned that I thought $200 was a good price. This is under $300, and it's a full-fledged UHF system. Looks suspiciously similar to Sony's UWP offerings, all the way down to the color, build quality, and make. So I'm wondering if they're getting B-stock cases from Sony production lines. But all-metal build, very nice battery housing, fairly easy to control, and these are priced at $270. Now, the kicker here is that the receiver is capable of receiving 2 lav signals simultaneously. You don't see that in very many lav kits. In fact, the only other one I could find that was under $1,000 that was capable of doing that is from Asden, and it's the 330 LT series, which is fairly spendy. $800 to $900, and it's huge. It's a monster compared to this. I've been testing this out. Really good audio quality. Again, a great lav mic, and it's under $300. Now, Mitch, I know you have several different wireless systems in your collection. Does $300 or $270, I believe, is the price, seem attractive to you for a UHF system?
Sure. So you end up having to buy an extra receiver, right? If you want to do two lav mics, or I guess you could have one on yourself, right?
Yeah, it would be really good for an interview type of setup, but $270 is the base price, so that gets you the receiver and the transmitter,
right? And
then it's another $150 if you want to get a second transmitter. So you could invest up to about $440, $450 in this kit.
I think I said 2 receivers, didn't I? Yeah. I think that's pretty interesting to be, especially if you're going to do interviews, to be able to have the receiver maybe on your body and just put your own lav mic in there and then have your guest have the other transmitter. And that's pretty cheap, especially since the one that you're just talking about, the Audio-Technica, you said it was $300. It's actually $389.
Oh, has it jumped up in price again?
At least that's what's showing on Amazon right now. So,
holy cow! Yeah, and I had to verify myself because when I saw it at 300, I was like, wait a minute, that's wrong. I paid $200 for this,
right?
And it was at 200 for some reason. Maybe it wasn't selling at that point, or they had overstock. Then it jumps all the way up to 300, and now 389. UHF. I'm going to tell you guys personally, as a filmmaker for many years, I prefer a UHF system as a solid backbone for my audio kit. It's got good transmitting range. It's fairly diverse. You usually end up with 90 or so channels to choose from in 10K increments. And it does a really good job in most cases. Where Wi-Fi wins is if you are in a super saturated UHF area. Say, for example, there's a news station there covering some sort of trial, and you have like 15 people using Wi-Fi or wireless UHF systems. Then Wi-Fi might win over. But in general, UHF is preferable. And the transmitting range on this, I was able to get over 400 feet from the receiver. The other interesting thing is that unlike some of the other units that have their own power control system, which means they control how much power the transmitter is outputting in order to get back to the receiver, this actually, and I don't know if this is legal actually, it might not be legal. The FCC requirements say that you're supposed to allow for minimum power except when necessary. So you're supposed to broadcast at the lowest power possible before eye closure, and eye closure is when the signal goes away and your receiver is no longer capturing the signal. But this allows you to just simply dial up to maximum transmit power and go quite a ways, which I don't know if it's not illegal per se, but it's a little on the questionable side in terms of being a good citizen of the UHF band. On the downside, though, this is in the 600 megahertz range. And if you're not familiar with the 600 megahertz range, the FCC has tried to sell it off for the last 4 years to both cell phone providers and so on. So keep that in mind if you're going to invest a bunch of money in this. On the other hand, every time I think that they're going to sell it off, they haven't. So $270 for a kit is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
The other thing to mention on this guy is battery life is a little rough. Getting 2 to 3 hours, 2 hours pretty solid at the maximum transmitting strength. If you reduce the transmitting strength down to the lowest setting and only use a single receiver channel, you can get 3 or 4 hours out of it, but still not quite as good as my G3s from Sennheiser.
Do I need a little screwdriver to change the setting?
No, you don't. But that's the other weird thing. So some of the settings, like the frequency change for the transmitter, is done by IR Blaster.
What?
Yeah, so you actually, if you let me show the picture again so you can see this. It's really sort of weird. You gotta
point them at each other?
Yeah, one of these right here, these little 2 dots, one is the power indicator, and one is the IR receiver. So this guy actually will start flashing, and this guy will receive the information via IR to frequency hop. So if you need to set the frequencies for these, with some of the new units, I believe Sennheiser and not Asden. Asden hasn't moved into that yet, but Shure, the Shure units and the Sennheiser units both have a new frequency hopping ability where they send a frequency to the receiver,
right,
and they change when they sense interference. This guy, you lock in whatever frequency you're using, and you lock it in with the transmitter by changing via IR Blaster, which is a bizarre choice to me.
Yeah.
But it's not something that I would put into the don't buy category because this is so affordable and it's all metal. Just under $300, a wireless kit that's all metal is pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's not just pretty nice, it's really nice. Even a used Sennheiser G2 or G3 unit, you're looking at $400 to $600. So really impressed with the Saramonic. Now, something I'm not impressed with is this. Finally, we've talked about this. I think we briefly talked about this a few shows ago,
Yep.
maybe 8 or 10 shows ago. The juicedlink Darling was announced in 2014 and has yet to see the light of day up until now. And I prematurely put it's finally for sale, but it's not finally for sale. It's finally for pre-order. This device, if you're not familiar with it, is the juicedlink Darling. And the little Darling is capable of receiving lock signal information for a band of many of these. You can put 10, 12 of them together, and they all are basically just independent field recorders with a locked timing tone that goes across each of them when you push a button. And so you're sending out a signal to all these saying like, hey, I'm starting now, here's my slate, and they all get a beep or a tone at the same time, and then they all individually record. You get all your memory cards out of all 3 of these guys, or 4 of these guys, or however many you're using, and then you put them in your computer and you use that tone that's generated when you press the start record to slate these all together. It's not wireless in terms of audio going back to your camera. It's not wireless in terms of anything other than the slate tone being activated simultaneously. This is a weird device.
Yeah.
And it's $200 a pop. We've just talked about 2 other Lav kits that were around $300, now $389 apparently. These guys, what do you think, Mitch? I mean, have they waited too long for this?
Robert, sorry, bud. I'm not sure I understand the usage of this or the pricing for sure. Robert's the guy that owns juicedlink. So,
Yeah, and he's a super nice guy, by the way.
Yeah, he is.
Like Robert a lot.
So my understanding, and I apologize because I didn't spend a lot of time reading this one, but the base or the main unit's $265. You got to buy that one first, right?
Yes.
And then all the other units are
$199.
$199. But he's also got a volume discount listed here that if you buy 8, you can get 25% off. So yeah, it goes up. I mean, if you buy just 2, it's 5%, and then it's 10% for 3 or something. So, I like the concept, but again, I don't mean to always be plugging Rode here, but if you want to do something like this, their solution is an interesting one as well, because they have and I apologize, I don't know why I'm not coming up with the name. They have a lav mic that plugs right into a smartphone. What's it called? It's like $60.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's the Rode mic with the adapter that goes into either your iPhone,
right.
Has an app that records internally.
Right. So you have the app on your phone, and you could put one on your groom and one on the bride somewhere. And I mean, technically you could distribute lots of those. Now, obviously, everybody would have to have their own smartphone, and you have to install software on there. But it is a lot cheaper to have multiple $60 microphones than multiple $200 units. But I don't know. There's a solution here. I mean, this is a solution for a problem, right? Where multiple recordings need to be made. But I'm not
Smart
not
lav
sure.
is the term we
Thank
were
you.
trying to find.
Rode's gonna fire me. But
so
if the price, if it were $50 per unit or something, it might be a really interesting option. But it's $200 a pop.
There are a few things that are fairly interesting about this. First of all, it does protective audio. So each individual unit is a stereo audio recorder. It records at one volume and at a lower volume. So you have protected audio tracks across the board. It is difficult when you get up to 4 or 5 people to mix audio into a single camera. And in those situations, something like this could be an option, but in general, I would go with something like the Z16 or Z24 from Zoom, and those are 8-channel recorders that also have a single 3.5 millimeter output back to your camera. And in those cases, you have all your audio recorded on the camera, and you have all the individual tracks if you need to do any adjustments. Plus, you have a sound guy mixing, live sound. Because really, when you get to that number where the volume number 8 or 10 buys, you're probably going to have a dedicated sound guy. You're going to have dedicated sound audio. You're not going to be doing something like this. And then imagine the post work that's involved in this. Bringing in, 6 or 7 different audio tracks, syncing them all together and dropping them into your timeline. And I don't know, it doesn't seem like a very convenient method of workflow at this price. Now, $50, like you mentioned, $50, I could say, hey man, why don't you use this? Take one of these. But at $200 or $300, most people probably aren't going to need that many tracks, and if they do, they're going to probably advance in a different direction. So, sorry, JuiceLink.
Well, technically, let's go back and think about it. The Zoom H1 is a decent little recorder that you can put in people's pockets for $100.
True. And it has loft power built in. Right.
So you're getting ready to record, and you say, "All right, let's clap," right, or something. Is the only, other than that's not protected audio, like you were mentioning with the 2 different levels, right? The Zoom doesn't have protected audio. I don't know. It'd be interesting to have Robert on and talk about that or something. He's a great guy. Don't get me wrong. He obviously sees a need that some people have, and his solution he thinks is better than anything else. But I don't know.
I actually met with him in 2014 at NAB and talked to him about a wireless setup, and I was trying to talk him into implementing Wi-Fi into his units back then, because at the time a Chinese company had just released a really cheap chipset that was around like $80 or $70 that was capable of transmitting and receiving audio. And the chipset you could implement pretty easily. They had pre-designed specs and everything. And Robert, he said, no, I want this to be made in the United States at my factory. I want this to be done a certain way, and I don't want it to use this other chipset that I'm not familiar with. And then he told me about this, and I was like, I don't know, man. I don't know. And then I didn't even think about it for a couple years, and now it's finally hitting the market, and it's just like...
He is a fanatic about audio and electronics. He knows every little detail. He probably knows more than you.
Oh yeah, definitely. He spends way more time in front of a spectrometer checking audio circuits. And I will tell you, JuiceLink's audio amplifiers are very, very good. Robert spends a lot of time putting superior chips into his systems, and beats competitors like Beach Tech in terms of XLR amplifiers. I've never been a fan of their tiny knobs. Never been a fan of the tiny knobs, but JuiceLink does make really good audio kit. And I would guess that all of these little darlings have great audio amplifiers built into them. He's probably spent a ton of time analyzing the circuitry using high-end precision capacitors and amplifiers that make this sound great. That said, some people like myself have trouble hearing that great audio once it gets up to a certain frequency, because I'm getting old. My ears just aren't as good as they used to be. And for a lot of people in general, the things that I even complain about in lav kits aren't an issue for them because they don't think it sounds that bad. So I don't know. Maybe this is for the audiophiles. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say there's got to be a market for it, or Robert wouldn't have spent the time doing it.
Definitely.
It's just not us.
I would love to hear from people that find a use for this, audiophiles, which was what I was about to roll into with my very last thing on the list here. And this is actually nothing to do with cameras, just something I thought was fun. I often complain about Kickstarter and Kickstarter has failed me in the past. This one has not, though. This is the Gramovox Floating Record Kickstarter. I put my money down on the barrelhead almost a year ago now, and it finally showed up. Pretty classy record player. I think I paid $300 for this guy, or $250, something like that. So fairly spendy, but got it put together, tested it out. It sounds pretty good. Runs a little slow, not gonna lie, but
What do you mean it runs slow?
well, the 33 speed isn't quite up to the RPMs required, so you do get a little bit of a pitch shift downward in your audio.
Can you not adjust it?
No, it's not adjustable.
Huh. So why would, on God's green earth, would anybody want their old LPs or new LPs, vinyl, vertical versus laying flat on a table? What's the bonus?
It's classy.
Oh,
There's no bonus.
There is no audio sexual bonus for, I don't know.
No,
Doesn't
really.
make it sound better.
If you're a big audiophile, I used to have a Slate record player, which is a very heavy based record player that lays flat. And the idea being that it takes all the vibration and so on out of the record and the spinning mechanism. And then there's the arguments for direct drive versus belt drive and all the other things that go along with that. This doesn't have a lot of the things that people hold up as being a perfect record player. It does have a heavy bass, but it's screwing it sideways. The needle doesn't have downward force on it, so it has to have a spring tensioner in order to apply force. It just looks cool.
Okay.
That's about it, really. You pay the money for a record player that looks cool. It brings the sort of classy old school look of some of the designs that you used to see in the 40s and 50s, that sort of like retro modern look. Not camera related at all.
Are those speakers on the side?
Yes, they are.
So it has an amplifier built in?
It does. And it's fairly loud and it sounds pretty good.
Huh.
It's $400 if you really want to buy one now after the Kickstarter program is over. I was just happy that it actually showed up.
Yeah.
Quality is decent. Like I mentioned earlier, there's no way to adjust the speed. A few people have been having issues with the belts not showing up in the package. Also, there's a whole slew. If you're a part of the Kickstarter, you can go read the spreadsheet of complaints that people want fixed on theirs. Mine came out pretty good. I have records, so the first thing I did was grab an old Louis Prima album and put it on there, and then some Louis Armstrong and played some of that.
So it does 45s as well.
It does, but you have to change the belt in order to do 45s.
Oh my stars! Really?
Yes.
So obviously it doesn't do 78s.
No.
No.
Just 33s and 45s. So
Wow.
that's all you're
That's
stuck
pretty
with.
cool. I'm impressed, DJ. I like it. I'm glad you brought it up because I mean
It looks nice, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
if you had a nice clean room and we're sitting around playing music, that would be pretty cool.
Well, and a lot of people have combined this with a Sonos bridge so that they can have the speaker playing in one room and then also bridge that audio out to their Sonos system across the house. Pretty classy. I'm planning on installing this. I have a large shelf where I can make the cables all disappear and just have the one record player sitting there as a nice centerpiece in my living room. Is it practical? Not at all. And I was making fun of myself on Twitter the other day. I showed a picture of this and said, hey, maybe I really do need a Pen F to go along with my freaking record player. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm embarrassed. Okay. Oh, one last mention. I wanted to bring this up one more time. Cinesummit is March 1st and 2nd. If you want to check out the 10 directors for free, go out there today. That's DSLRFilmNoob.com/Cinesummit, and you can find out how to get ready to check out the March 1st and 2nd showings. That's 10 directors, lots of information. So be sure to look into that. Mitch, you have anything else to add before we get out of here?
It's great talking to you, DJ. I am always impressed at how much knowledge you have up in that little noggin of yours.
It's all over the place, man. Today has just been all over the place.
Our tongues don't work, but hey, We had fun, right?
I actually missed you last week. You know, these talks in the morning, Mitch is a great guy. Before show, we kind of banter back and forth, and I always have fun talking to him. So thanks, Mitch, for showing up. You can find Mitch where?
planetmitch.com or planet5d.com. And if my sound effects were working on my Mac, I don't know, but you would hear great sound effects there.
And of course, guys, you can find me, DJ, at DSLRFilmNoob.com, on Twitter at DSLRFilmNoob, on YouTube, onelonedork, and you can find this podcast anywhere audio podcasts are distributed, including SoundCloud and iTunes. Thanks again for make sure you write a review. And leave your comments and questions in the YouTube post. That's a great place for me to dig those up and find them and answer. Oh, one last thing before we go, and I forgot I was going to answer this question. A number of you have asked about my audio setup for the podcast. The audio setup is a Rode VideoMic Pro. Again, Rode's not a sponsor, but I do have a lot of Rode products. So
wait, that's not a VideoMic.
Or no, not VideoMic Pro. Thank you. The Podcaster Pro, the Tascam DR70D audio recorder that is fed from this microphone right here. This is a Stedman pop filter, one of the best pop filters on the market, and that all goes into a Lexicon Alpha USB audio adapter. And I believe you're using the lower model of the Procaster, correct?
It's
the USB
called,
version?
It's called, yes, the USB. It's called the Padcaster. No, that's not right.
Padcaster?
Oh, that's the thing that you hold up your iPad. Oh, my gosh.
I believe both of them are called the Procaster, and one is the USB version, one is the non-USB version. Mine is the XLR version. Very heavy, great mic. I've also got the arm that goes along with that. So if you're wondering what we use for the podcast, that's what we use. And then, of course, this is an MPC 1000 for our samples. Mitch uses his sometimes working Mac effects, but that's it.
My gosh.
All right, we'll see you next time on another exciting episode of DSLR Film Noob Podcast. Some days we rock, and some days we just roll.
It's called the Podcaster. Why did I come up with Padcaster?
Yeah, yours is the Podcaster, and mine is the Procaster, I believe, is actually the terms we were searching for.
Doggies. Rode's going to fire me.
Also, side note, if you can't see this in the YouTube quality, but Mitch sees what I look like, and that's because I am using a GH4 right now to...
Are you really?
Yeah, actually, I set my E1 Z cam down somewhere, and I couldn't find it, so... Because it's tiny. It's a little tiny camera. It's somewhere in a bag, and my room is cleaner, but if you look behind me, look at this mess back there. It's all filled with crap, and that crap is where I lose things. So I'm using the GH4. I just grabbed it really quick, plugged it in, and for some reason, the battery power system on this causes weird audio, because I'm using one of those dummy batteries in order to power this, and it's a switch mode power supply. And that dummy battery switch mode power supply is generating some weird AC ripple in the audio for the camera. So I had to actually switch back to the regular audio path.
Is that why it was making that really horrible noise when we first started?
Yes.
Huh.
And I've been trying to chase down the source, the actual source of that by changing power modes and so on. And I can power it via battery, which isolates it, and that takes care of the wah-wah noise. But...
then you're risking
running out of camera juice during the show.
Yeah. See, I actually used to do my shows with the 5D Mark III.
Now, did you use like a screen capture type of thing?
Right. Yes. Back in the old days. So that's what I was using, and it was actually the EOS utility that would bring in the video, but then I was using something called Manicam to grab that hunk of the screen where that was broadcasting and put it out over the video channel, like to Skype or whatever. There's actually a video out on Vimeo on how to do that that's still very popular. It's one of my most popular videos ever, and it's outdated as heck, but people still go looking for ways to use their camera as a instead of some crappy little USB thing.
Manicam is still around and
Yep.
does offer up a lot of interesting features for this sort of application. I'm actually using a hardware-based system. I can tilt my mic here. You can see this. This is the Magewell USB capture HDMI device. It is roughly $300, $250, something like that. And it is an all-in-one, just aluminum little brick that takes HDMI in one way and sends it out via USB 3.0 the other direction.
Huh.
And it's super handy. There's also I think iOmega, one of the brands that you were used to remember from like Jazz Drives, makes a variant that's $400 that's capable of capturing 4K and spitting it out via USB.
Really?
So those two are interesting options if you're trying to capture video live from a source.
Did you ever try the Blackmagic? Because Blackmagic has one too.
Yeah, the issues.
Really? Did you have trouble with it?
Yeah, I've had both of the Blackmagic HDMI capture devices. One, it was a standalone like box that was blank, and it was capable of I believe it used CF cards. You stuck a CF card in there, and it captured HDMI output. And I used to use that way back in the day with the Canon. What was it? Canon I think HG10 or HF10. It was the very first DV camera that was capable of capturing 1080p, but it captured 1080p in a format that was like cropped basically, but the output via the HDMI port was actually 1080p, so you could use the Blackmagic to capture it that way. And I also used their adapter at the time. They may have made it nicer since then. I don't know. I gave up on it, but Blackmagic stuff for me, their switchers and everything else, and Devin can attest to this too because he uses a number of them in the studio. They generally have weird things going on. Blackmagic makes good hardware, but sometimes they don't implement their software side of things very fast.
Well, we know they've always had trouble getting anything out, right?
Yeah, well, you know that Video Assist, their screen capture, uses SD cards. That guy just finally got a few features added to it that allows it to actually tell you how long you have left on your freaking memory card. And it's like, well, what?
Yeah.
Why would you do that? Why wouldn't you have that from the get-go? And it's because the hardware part, it's pretty easy to design. I mean, it's not easy. I shouldn't say that at all. But once you're getting into digital logic, you can just grab chips, and the manufacturers of the chips will generally tell you, like, hey, you need to put a 5 ohm resistor here, and you need to put this type of capacitor here, and here's how you hook everything up. But implementing the software portion of it is the part where these companies really bring the value to the table. And Blackmagic a lot of times will throw something out there that has a lot of cool stuff, but then it's not really implemented correctly or implemented at all, honestly. And then, eventually they start doling those out. So the Video Assist just got better. I think the firmware is 1.3 if you own one of those. And I will say it's way lighter, way skinnier, and much, much better screen than the Ninja 2. So if you were a Ninja 2 owner from Thomas, however you say that, Adamus, you will definitely feel like you're getting, I would put the Video Assist in the same range as the Ninja Blade sharp knife, whatever they call it, so
Sorry.
that's okay.
Oh, God.
This is just extra stuff for the YouTube people, but I would say those two are fairly similar. The screen on the Blackmagic Assist, it does look really nice, but the touchscreen interface is also confusing, especially if you're working with people that aren't as smartphone user oriented, because it's not straightforward or clear how to get out of the menu and back to the screen. So you have to sort of think about the way it would be implemented in a phone and then use that methodology for your device.
Who doesn't own a smartphone? Yeah.
All right. I
All
think that's
right.
it. Mitch and I have rolled around, and our tongues are not in the best of shape this morning.
No.
But thanks, guys. I'm going to end the live broadcast now, unless, Mitch, you have anything else to complain about.
No, I'm done for the day.
All right. Take care,
Thanks,
guys.
TJ. Bye.